Hello, you're kicking off the Monday's edition of QPVN English News Bulletin. You're with Milinchi and income deadlines. Vietnam and U.S. promote substantive defense cooperation. Party General Secretary To Lam encourages residents in flood-affected areas of Hue City. Military troops stand by people. On November 2nd in Hanoi, Party General Secretary To Lam received U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth on the occasion of his official visit to Vietnam from November 2nd to the 3rd. Party General Secretary To Lam welcomed Secretary Pete Hegseth's visit, which takes place as the two countries mark the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations a few years since the end of the Vietnam War. He emphasized that the visit holds special significance, reflecting the long journey both nations have undertaken to build the current comprehensive strategic partnership, one that is increasingly reliable, substantive, and sustainable. The Vietnamese party chief affirmed that Vietnam always considers the United States one of its most important partners and wishes to further strengthen comprehensive bilateral cooperation across some fields for the benefit of both peoples. Secretary Pete Hegseth expressed his honor to visit Vietnam, a country of growing importance in the Indo-Pacific region. On behalf of the U.S. government, he extended condolences of the region flood damage in central Vietnam. He affirmed that the U.S. Department of War will continue close coordination with the Vietnamese Ministry of National Defense to complete ongoing projects and expand cooperation into new areas in line with its size needs and capacities. Also on the afternoon of November 2nd at the Presidential Palace, President Lincoln received U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Appreciating the outcome of the talks between Secretary Hegseth and Minister Phan Van Giang, President Lincoln thanked the U.S. for its close cooperation with Vietnam in addressing unexploded ordnance and Agent-Orange reducing contamination, and called on both sides to continue effective coordination in the search and identification of the remains of Vietnamese soldiers and missing U.S. service members, as well as in supporting war victims in Vietnam. U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth affirmed that the United States attaches great importance to its comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam, highly values Vietnam's growing role and position in the region and the international arena. He voiced the U.S. commitment to further strengthening bilateral ties, particularly in defense field. He emphasized that the U.S. backs a strong, independent, resilient, and prosperous Vietnam. He noted that the U.S. will continue to work closely with Vietnam in the settlement of war consequences, including bomb and mine clearance, doubting remediation, and the search and identification of remains of Vietnamese soldiers, while seeking to expand cooperation in defense industry, maritime security, training, and capacity building in areas of shared interest. As the invitation of General Phan Van Giang, Minister of National Defense, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is paying an official visit to Vietnam from November 2nd to the 3rd. On the afternoon of November 2nd, at the headquarters of the Ministry of National Defense, Mr. Phan Van Giang hosted an official welcome ceremony and held talks with his American counterpart. During the talks, both sides agreed that Vietnam-U.S. defense cooperation has achieved positive outcomes in the recent years. The two ministers reaffirmed that collaboration in overcoming war legacies continues to be a highlight of the bilateral relationship, strongly supported by the senior leaders of both countries in all three main areas, including cooperation in resolving unexploded ordnance and post-war toxic chemical contamination. Joint efforts to search for U.S. service members missing in action in Vietnam and search for remains of Vietnamese servicemen who sacrificed or went missing during the war. Mr. Phan Van Giang proposed the U.S. continue to assist Vietnam in improving its capacity to address unexploded ordnance and toxic chemical contamination and complete internal procedures to ensure the implementation of agreed non-refundable aid resources, including the additional budget of $130 million for the project at Bien Hoa Air Base area. He also called for continued cooperation in locating and identifying Vietnamese servicemen who sacrificed or went missing during the war. Vietnam reaffirmed its commitment to closely coordinating and creating the most favorable conditions for MIA activities so as to enhance the effectiveness of joint research efforts. In the coming term, in addition to addressing war legacies, both sides agreed to focus on several areas of cooperation, including exchanges of delegations at all levels, effective implementation of existing dialogue and consultation mechanisms, cooperation between Army Corps and services, defense military cooperation, and cooperation in such other areas as training, military medicine, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, cybersecurity, and UN peacekeeping operations. They also agreed to continue coordination in multilateral defense mechanisms, especially under the ADM Plus framework. During the talks, the two ministers also exchanged views on regional and global issues of mutual concern. At this occasion, Minister Phan Văn Giang announced that the Ministry of National Defense plans to host the 3rd Vietnam International Defense Expo at the end of 2026 and expressed his hope that the U.S. Secretary of War Peter Hegseth and other leaders of the U.S. Department of War, as well as defense enterprises, would continue to support and participate in the event. Concluding the event, the two sides exchanged war keepsakes. On November 2nd, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm visited, encouraged and presented relief support for residents in flood-hit Quang Dien province of Huế City. Accompanying the delegation were Permanent Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Hòa Bình and Lieutenant General Nguyễn Văn Gấu, Deputy Defense Minister. The delegation traveled by motorboat through severely flooded areas to reach to a hamlet in Khuôn Phò Đồng village, where dozens of households remain isolated due to rising floodwaters. The party chief kindly inquired about local residents' health and living conditions, encouraging them to overcome difficulties and soon restore stability. He affirmed that the party, the state, and community as a whole always stand with people, ensuring that no one is left without food, accommodation, or support during floods. Protecting the lives and well-being of the people is the highest priority. At the Quang Dien Khmer People's Committee headquarters, on behalf of the party and the state, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm presented 100 billion Vietnam dollars and 200 tons of rice to support Huế City and delivered gifts to households severely affected by the floods. On behalf of the Central Military Commission and the Ministry of National Defense, Lieutenant General Nguyễn Văn Gấu also presented aid packages to local residents. At this occasion, the Vietnam Fatherland Front also provided an additional 20 billion Vietnam dollars to support post-flood recovery efforts. As the impacts of Storm Fan continue to be severe across many central provinces, forecasts indicate that Storm Kamage is expected to make landfall in areas under Military Region 5 in the coming days. In order to respond proactively, Military Region 5 Command directed its affiliated agencies and units, local defensive area commands, and provincial and municipal military commands to urgently deploy personnel and equipment. Military Region 5 has established 2 forward command posts in the northern and southern parts of the region to directly lead response forces. The command also instructed local border guard units to continue monitoring and calling fishing vessels back to safe harbors, assist residents in reinforcing houses, and relocate people in flooded and high-risk areas to safety. Ngọc Linh, a mountainous commune in western Quảng Ngãi province, is among localities severely hit by the aftermath of Typhoon Fan. Over the past 2 days, military units have been mobilized to the locality, joining hands with local residents to help stabilize their lives. The newly built house of Anip and his family in Mopa Hamlet faces the risk of complete collapse after days of heavy rain. Then, the whole family's members and their properties have been safely relocated. Mopa Hamlet has suffered from serious damages, with 3 houses and several inter-hamlet roads and crops destroyed. We've evacuated residents from dangerous areas, especially those heavily affected. Militia troops have also supported in relocating households facing landslide threats to safer areas. We deploy officers, soldiers, and military troops to inspect routes to identify danger areas and implement safety measures to protect people. Over the past 2 days, hundreds of relief packages and essential goods have been delivered directly to the local residents. Hundreds of officers and soldiers from Regiment 24 and Division 10 Army Corps 34 and the Guangzhou Provincial Military Command, together with local military forces, have braved the rain to tackle landslides and build temporary bridges. Due to steep terrain, heavy rainfall and deep mud, machinery such as excavators and bulldozers cannot be used effectively. In that case, the military troops' sheer manpower has been fully exploited instead. All are determined to the local people return to normal life as soon as possible. No matter how serious the circumstances is, our officers and soldiers always maintain optimism and turn hardship into action to support the locals. Whenever the people need us, we will always be here. The storm has gone over, but there remains the bond between the military troops and the people. Officers and soldiers continue working day and night alongside residents to together overcome this difficult period. Coming up next, illegal fishing vessels detained. Building modern hub for military medicine. As part of the peak campaign to prevent and end illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, RIU fishing for short, from October the 15th to November the 15th. On November the 2nd, Coast Guard reason for detected and detained 2 fishing vessels for illegally storing and transporting VMS devices belonging to other boats in the southwestern waters. The task force of Coast Guard reason for, in coordination with Antoi Border Guard Station and the Border Guard Force of Ansan Province, inspected fishing vessel KG 31397TS and another unregistered boat. They were found carrying VMS tracking devices belonging to vessel KG 92827TS and KG 93231TS. The 2 boats were seized with evidence sealed and escorted to Squadron 401 port in Phú Quốc for further investigation. Aiming to be a modern high-quality hospital, Military Hospital 121 is asserting its role as the leading military medicine center in the Mekong Delta. By expanding ties with top hospitals, its clinicians now must advance diagnostics in such key areas as cancer screening, prenatal, neonatal screening, and SPECT/CT imaging. Treatment results stand out. Complex orthopedic cases, spinal correction, joint replacement, cervical vertebral replacement have been performed successfully. I can move now. I don't feel pain anymore and sleep through the night. Without this doctor, I couldn't be here today. In 2025, the hospital is rolling out radio frequency ablation for thyroid nodules, endoscopic inguinal hernia repair, cold plasma wound therapy, and intraoperative frozen suction by spine, especially strengthening intensive care and emergency medicine. Continuous renal replacement therapy is cutting-edge and highly effective. Percutaneous single-stage tracheostomy can be done in the ICU with short procedure time and few complications. The hospital is also establishing an assisted reproduction unit. 2 teams have been trained at the Vietnam Military Medical University, and in vitro fertilization is expected to officially launch in December 2025. In the Mekong Delta, military couples have had to go elsewhere. Our first priority with IVF is to support military families facing infertility. These efforts reinforce the image of service members in West Coast, professionally steadfast, compassionate in service, and combat-ready, worthy of the trust of troops and people across the Southwest. It is the end of the latest news bulletin today. You will watch the news again at qpvn.vn. Goodbye and see you next time.